Welcome back. We're looking at environmental activism at sea with a man who's risked his life to stop illegal whalers and poachers. Captain Wal Watson, a co-founder of Greenpeace, runs the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. Let's get back to our discussion. An email here that came in for you, Captain, from Lee Bartholomew in Cedar Falls in Iowa. And Lee wrote in saying, I wouldn't consider Captain Watson an eco-pirate. Now, the Earth Liberation Front, that's closer to eco-terrorism. Setting fire to a bunch of Hummers actually probably leads to more pollution. I was interested in reading an interview with you when you were asked, perhaps where are you at fault personally? And you said, I use a lot of fuel for my ships. But you also said that, that the way your activism keeps you carbon neutral because you're able to take down the vessels of the poachers and and some of the people who are abusing the law, I guess. How do you explain that logic of how you're actually able to offset your carbon?
Well, I don't like using fossil fuels, but it's the only way that we can run our ships to chase down the poachers. But we shut down enough poaching vessels, so by eliminating them, we're actually taking their vessels off of the oceans, and therefore they're not consuming the fuel. So we're actually responsible for less fuel being utilized by chasing them down, apprehending them, putting them out of business.
How do you fund your activities, Captain Watson? How are you able to get the support to run, an expensive fleet and keep the activities going for so long?
Well, actually, we're quite a relatively small organization with an annual budget of just over $2 million a year, and that all comes from individual support from around the world, individual people.
I know you have a lot of supporters from Hollywood, and I'm just wondering, how much that helps. You have names like Orlando Bloom, Martin Sheen, William Shatner, Ed Norton, Sean Penn. There's quite a long list. How much does it help to have that celebrity backing?
Oh, it does help quite a bit. And Richard Dean Anderson, Martin Sheen have come on our campaigns. Aidan Quinn's participated in campaigns. Rutger Hauer just joined our board in the Netherlands. More importantly, actually, the former Environment Minister for Australia, Ian Campbell, just joined our board of advisors. And the former Vice Chairman of the International Whaling Commission, Horst Kleinschmidt, joined our board. And Horst said that he resigned from the International Whaling Commission because they're not doing anything to protect whales. He said we were being more effective.
Now, I know you call your fleet Neptune's Navy. I wonder, is it hard to find people who follow you into the activism, especially when there are risks involved, some of the risks that we've highlighted in the show? Are you finding is it easy to find volunteers?
No, on the contrary, my most difficult task is having to tell people they can't go because we have more applications than we know what to do with. We have hundreds of people who want to participate, who want to go out there. And when people say, how can you risk your life for a whale? I say, well, I don't understand what the contradiction is. Over the last century, hundreds of millions of people have died over wars over real estate, other people's real estate. I think that it's a far more noble endeavor to go out and risk your life for an endangered species. And in fact, when you really look at it, we're actually fighting for the salvation of this planet, because if we don't save these oceans, then we're going to go extinct. It's as simple as that.
I saw in the documentary Sharkwater how your effort to try and stop those taking the shark fins ended up with a court case against you and the others involved. Just tell me about the shark fin mafia, as you call it.
Well, we do get a lot of court cases, but we've always won. We've never been convicted of any felony ever. But we have to battle vested interests. In Costa Rica, we have to deal with the fact that the Taiwanese fisheries put a lot of money into the Costa Rican government. A lot of people are bribed. I find Costa Rica to be one of the most corrupt countries down in Latin America when it comes to shark finning. They keep saying that they're dealing with it, but in fact the market is growing. And we're really in danger of losing quite a few species of sharks unless we take some very concrete action. Ecuador is doing what it can, but there's a lot of political problems there. Colombia, the rangers off of Mapello, they're doing what they can, but they don't have the resources, and the poachers have all the backing of the Asian markets that seem to have an inexhaustible demand for shark fins, which is a non-nutritive product. It doesn't provide any nutrition to anybody, but it's sold as a status symbol. So we're going to wipe out the sharks of the world just so people can have a bowl of shark fin soup to impress their neighbors.
Is there any effort to try to educate people, especially the consumer markets where, as you say, there's a huge demand and people believe there's some value in shark fin soup, for example? Is there any effort to educate the people so that they actually, at the consumer level, you might have an impact?
There's many organizations, WildAid is a good example of organizations that are trying to educate the public. But the problem is that there's no excuse for ignorance in today's world. We have the media, we have the information. People are willfully ignorant. They don't want to know. They want to eat their Chilean sea bass, even though it's going to go extinct if they continue to do so. We've already wiped out the orange roughy. You don't see that in the stores anymore because it takes 45 years to become sexually mature and lives to be 100 years old, and we've wiped them out. And they haven't recovered, just as we've wiped out the northern cod. We go from one fish species to the next. I mean, soon we'll be, be marketing jellyfish as the only thing left. Really, there's just simply not enough fish in the world's oceans to continue to feed this ever-increasing and escalating demand from an increasing human population. And we've got to stop this large-scale, heavy gear commercial fisheries, or else we're going to destroy life in the sea.
How important is it for you and obviously the operations that you run to stay within the law? I know you said that you've been able to challenge people and say, take me to court, and they can't because you're abiding by the law. But how important is it to you not to cross the thresholds there?
Well, I think that we have to have respect for the law. I think we do respect the law. On those occasions where we are charged, we go to court and we defend ourselves, and we have won. I also believe that it's okay to break the law as long as you're willing to stand up and defend the fact that you broke the law. For instance, like Gandhi, and that's what we do. Because some laws are just simply there in order to facilitate the exploitation of the natural world or to exploit other people. And those laws should be challenged. For instance, in Canada, we're challenging the seal protection regulations, which makes it illegal to actually witness, film, or photograph a seal being killed without permission of the government of Canada. So we keep going to court with them on that. But these are the kind of rules and regulations that governments can continue to concoct in order to protect the ongoing exploitation of resources.
How do you balance the needs of indigenous people and groups that need to be able to live off the land and live in a sort of balanced way, compared with those, as you say, the heavy machinery, the sort of large-scale fisheries and so on?
Well, conservationists are always taken to task because we're threatening the livelihood of, say, a fisherman worldwide. But it's not really us that's doing that. For instance, when the Norwegian drag trawler fleets went down the coast of India and just wiped out everything, they put hundreds of thousands of Indian fishing people out of work. When the Japanese longline fleet moved into the Sea of Cortez, they put a lot of Mexican families into poverty because of this. It's these large commercial operations which are a real threat to the livelihood, especially of indigenous and artisanal fishermen around the world, and that's what we're trying to shut down. There's no need to be stringing 100-mile long lines, 60-mile drift nets, and giant drag trawlers that scour the bottom. We don't need this stuff. They're destroying the ocean. If people want to go out and catch a fish to feed their family, that's fine. But you don't clear-cut the ocean of life is really what they're doing.
Does the media help or hinder you?
Well, the media can help and the media can hinder. It all depends on who's controlling the media, really. Certain media are very prejudicial towards industries that exploit, and others tend to take a more sympathetic view, and others take an objective view. So there's really, a whole spectrum of how you deal with the media. But we're mainly concerned, though, with our organization is simply just going out there and directly intervening to uphold international conservation law, and to do so in a manner that doesn't cause any injury. And that's the one thing that people forget about us, is that in over 3 decades of operations, not a single injury have we ever caused. So they can call us all the names they want, but we have that record and that reputation, that truth behind us.
Now, in terms of the risks you faced, I know you've been shot at. I gather you were wearing a Kevlar vest at the time.
Yeah, in fact, I've got a contract on my life from the shark fin mafia in Ecuador, which is one of the reasons I was wearing that vest. We've been shot at, we've had grenades thrown at us, we've had our ships rammed. I mean, it's really interesting that when we throw rotten butter onto the deck of a Japanese whaling vessel to discourage their operations, we're called violent and terrorists. But when they fire real bullets and grenades at us, nobody seems to think that that's violent. So it's like governments have this license to kill that everybody accepts, and anybody who opposes that kind of exploitation is expected to just oppose them with petitions and protest signs. In 1977, I left Greenpeace because I got tired of seeing whales die. We went out there to bear witness to the death of whales. I got tired of protesting. Protesting to me is a submissive position, like, please, please, please don't kill the whales. Ever since I left Greenpeace, I haven't seen a whale die. When we show up, they stop killing whales and they run. And we like them to be afraid of us. We want them to be afraid of us. But one thing I can certainly assure everybody is that we'll never injure anybody, because we have an absolute respect for life.
Now, I know you're not a big fan of corporate environmentalism either. Why is that?
Well, I think that these large organizations are just like governments. They suck in all the money, but they don't really do too much. The real strength of the conservation environmental movement is in grassroots organizations and individuals. It's the Jane Goodalls and the Diane Fosseys and the Steve Irwins that make the difference in the world. It's not the, I won't mention any names, but it's not those big organizations. I've been on the board of directors of some of the largest environmental organizations in the world, and I was just thoroughly disillusioned at the bureaucracy and the incompetence and the fact that they just don't get it. They seem to be more concerned about, you know, their cash flow and their six-figure salaries than they do about actually going out there and getting the job done.
Now, 4 decades on, briefly, Captain Watson, do you think you're winning the battle?
Well, we're winning the battles that we fight, but the problem is with conservation work is that all of our victories are short-term. Unfortunately, our defeats are permanent. But we're hoping also to empower people. When I bring crew members out on our ship, we're hoping to empower them, to let them know that they as individuals can make a difference. And I think that we do have a growing movement here. And I think that the solution's an impossible one, but as Nelson Mandela demonstrated very accurately, sometimes the only answer is the impossible one. I mean, who thought in 1972 that he would ever get out of prison, let alone be president of South Africa? But the impossible happened, and so I put my faith in the fact that the impossible can happen, and that we'll turn this around, and that people will come to their senses and learn that the only way we're going to survive is to live in harmony with the laws of ecology and to recognize and respect all other species on this planet, because we can't live without them.
Captain Paul Watson, I wish you a lot of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. See you next time. From you and the team, goodbye.